Nearly 40% of the total trade of the United States, approximately 20% of China's total commerce, and about 12% of Russia's international trade depend on this single, narrow waterway. It sounds unbelievable, but the economic engines of these global superpowers are held hostage by a narrow back alley in Central America, only a few hundred feet wide. This is not just a canal, it is the vital artery of world trade, an artery so critical that if it were to close, the entire world would grind to a halt. Even the economy of the United States, the world's most powerful nation, would face total collapse. Look at the map. Here is San Francisco on the west coast of America, and over here is New York on the east coast. 150 years ago, to get from San Francisco to New York by sea, you had to circumnavigate the entire continent of South America, a brutal 13,000-kilometer journey. But distance wasn't the only problem. You had to cross Cape Horn, one of the most dangerous sea routes on Earth. With its massive waves, freezing Arctic waters, and violent oceanic storms, Cape Horn has claimed the lives of thousands of sailors throughout history. Moving north wasn't an option either. The Canadian sea routes are locked under thick sheets of Arctic ice for most of the year, making trade virtually impossible. To solve these two impossible problems, a path was carved through the narrowest point of the Americas, Panama. Today, the Panama Canal handles 5% to 6% of all global trade, moving goods worth approximately $400 billion every single year. Yet, the most incredible part of this story isn't the money, it's the mechanism. This canal sits between two massive oceans, the Pacific on one side and the Atlantic on the other. But the water doesn't just flow through. To understand how a massive ship climbs across an entire continent, we must look back at a history defined by the epic saga of catastrophic French failure and the ultimate, gritty American success. Today, we uncover the secrets of the Panama Canal. The dream began in 1881. The French, fresh from their triumph at the Suez Canal, arrived in Panama with an arrogance that would prove fatal. Led by Ferdinand de Lesseps, the man hailed as the Great Frenchman, they attempted to force a flatland strategy onto one of the most treacherous terrains on Earth. De Lesseps insisted on a sea-level trench, refusing to listen to engineers who warned that Panama was not the flat, sandy desert of Egypt. Instead, it was a vertical nightmare of ancient volcanic rock and saturated clay. As they began to cut into the Culebra Cut, the highest point of the Continental Divide, the Earth fought back. The tropical soil was so unstable that for every cubic yard they excavated, 2 more would slide back down in massive, soul-crushing landslides that buried steam shovels and rail lines in minutes. But the mud was not their only enemy. While the French fought the terrain, a silent killer was systematically decimating their ranks. In the late 19th century, medical science was still in the dark. It was not yet known that mosquitoes were the vectors for yellow fever and malaria. In a tragic irony, French hospitals, designed to save lives, became the primary breeding grounds for the insects. They placed the legs of hospital beds in pots of water to keep ants away, inadvertently creating the perfect nursery for the Aedes aegypti mosquito. The mortality rate was staggering. At its peak, the project was losing 200 workers every month. White European engineers, lured by high salaries, often died within 3 weeks of arrival. In total, over 22,000 lives were sacrificed to a plan that was physically impossible to complete. By 1889, the engineering hubris was matched only by financial ruin. The project collapsed into a historic bankruptcy, evaporating nearly $287 million in savings from ordinary French citizens. It triggered a corruption scandal so deep it nearly toppled the French government, leaving behind a graveyard of machinery. Millions of dollars worth of steam engines and dredges left to be swallowed by the advancing jungle for over a decade. In 1904, the United States began the construction of the Panama Canal. Their greatest tool was learning from the mistakes made by the French. The first step the Americans took was a war against disease. A doctor named William C. Gorgas realized that mosquitoes were the primary cause of deadly illnesses. He launched a massive sanitation program, clearing standing water, destroying mosquito habitats, and building drainage systems. As a result, the worker mortality rate dropped rapidly, and construction gained momentum. The most significant change was the design. While the French attempted to build a sea-level canal, the Americans implemented a lock-gate mechanism. Although the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans have nearly equal water levels, a massive mountainous region rises 85 feet above sea level in the middle of Panama. Cutting through this terrain at sea level was nearly impossible. The Panama Canal operates like a water elevator. When a ship enters from the ocean, it is placed in a concrete chamber. Once the gates are closed, water from a higher level flows into the chamber using gravity, raising the ship. This process is repeated in stages until the ship reaches the Gatun Lake, an artificial reservoir 85 feet above sea level. Gatun Lake is the heart of the canal. It was created by constructing the Gatun Dam across the Chagres River. The lake serves two purposes. It provides the massive volume of fresh water needed to operate the lock system and allows ships to travel across the elevated terrain without the need for further excavation. The entire system functions without mechanical pumps. It relies solely on gravity. Since the lake is at a high elevation, water flows naturally through underground tunnels and valves to fill or empty the chambers. The construction was completed in 1914. On August 15, 1914, the first ship crossed the canal, forever changing the map of world trade. This engineering marvel remains one of the most brilliant achievements in history, operating on the same principles today, over a century later. This entire system relies on nature. The surrounding rainforests are not just scenery. They are the lungs that produce the rain needed to fill the lakes. Without the tropical rains, the canal ceases to function. Today, as climate change brings unpredictable weather and droughts, the canal faces its greatest challenge since its opening in 1914. This vulnerability became a global crisis in 2023 and 2024, when the region suffered its driest period on record, forcing the Canal Authority to slash daily transits by nearly 40% and prompting some shipping lines to pay up to $4 million in auctions just to skip the line. As of April 2026, while water levels have seen a fragile recovery, the emergence of a new El Niño cycle threatens to bring severe, humid heat and reduced rainfall back to the isthmus, potentially draining Gatun Lake once again. To save its future, Panama is now forced to consider desperate measures, including a $900 million project to dam the Indio River and create a third reservoir, a move that would flood local communities but may be the only way to ensure this water bridge doesn't run dry in an increasingly warming world. What once took months now takes 8 to 10 hours. The Panama Canal remains a testament to human ambition, a place where the mountains were moved and the oceans were joined. Today, its role is more vital than ever. As of April 2026, the canal has become a critical refuge for global trade, following the effective closure of the Strait of Hormuz due to regional conflict. This geopolitical shift has pushed canal operations to their limits, with daily transits surging to an average of 37 vessels and peak days exceeding 40. The urgency is so great that desperate shipping companies have recently paid record-breaking auction fees, some exceeding $4 million, just to skip the 5-day waiting list and secure immediate passage for vital fuel and energy supplies. Despite these immense pressures and the looming threat of a new El Niño cycle, the canal remains fully operational, its locks serving as the indispensable heartbeat of a world forced to find new ways to connect.